Welcome to a special deep dive. Today we're plunging into a truly expansive vision of the future, really one that could profoundly shape how billions of us live, connect, and even, well, think. Our mission today is to thoroughly explore a fascinating conversation with someone right at the forefront of building that future, Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of Meta. This comes from an interview by Cleo Abram from her YouTube channel. We've pulled key excerpts from that piece, The Future Mark Zuckerberg is Trying to Build, and honestly, it's packed. Rich with insights, some surprising facts, and yeah, genuinely thought-provoking ideas. We're going to try and paint a vivid picture of the future Mark Zuckerberg is actively trying to construct. Give you all the pieces so you can decide for yourself what you make of it all. It might sound like something out of, I don't know, science fiction.
Oh, totally.
But it's actually being built right now.
And what's really compelling, I think, about these discussions is how they merge this grand technological ambition with really fundamental human desires of, connection, understanding, even just fun. We'll be dissecting the hardware, the sophisticated AI, and sort of the underlying philosophy that's driving these massive shifts happening at Meta.
Okay, so let's start unpacking this vision, beginning with something that, truly sounds like it jumps straight out of a movie.
Sure.
The real-life Tony Stark glasses.
Right. And these aren't just a concept, They're described as the culmination of a whole decade of intensive R&D at Meta. They represent the first full holographic augmented reality glasses in the world. Meta's already produced a few thousand prototypes of these.
A few thousand, okay. So what's the engineering feat here? What makes these glasses so different from, say, current headsets or even those simpler smart glasses we've seen?
Well, the core innovation is miniaturization. It's incredible, really. They've managed to fit all the computing power needed to project full, high-quality holograms into the real world. And with a wide field of view, importantly, all inside a normal-looking pair of glasses, not some bulky headset.
Right.
Imagine having a conversation where, one person is physically there and the other is a full-body hologram you can genuinely interact with, play games with, even collaborate on work with, right there in your physical space.
Wow. Okay, connecting this to the bigger picture then, it feels like more than just, a cool new gadget. Zuckerberg actually calls this the next major computing platform after phones. What does that really mean for how we interact with tech going forward?
Yeah, he sees a clear progression from mainframes, right, then desktops, then phones, which, let's face it, often pull us away from our immediate surroundings. These glasses, though, the idea is they integrate digital experiences into your physical world. So computing becomes more ubiquitous, more natural, and just inherently more social. The core insight here isn't just about shrinking the tech, it's a whole paradigm shift. Computing that kind of disappears into our environment, making the technology feel invisible, intuitive.
Okay, let's dive deeper into the tech side then, because getting all that into glasses, that must involve some really innovative engineering. You mentioned it's not average display tech.
Exactly, not at all. They use something called a waveguide system. Think of it like guiding light through microscopic tunnels etched right onto the glass itself. That's combined with microprojectors and these incredibly precise nano etchings to create those seamless holograms. But beyond that display tech, oh yeah, they pack in eye tracking, cameras specifically to illuminate the eyes for the tracking, all the necessary computing chips, batteries, microphones, speakers, and really intricate sensors. Those sensors are crucial for accurately placing the holograms so they look stable in your environment. Plus, there's a radio for offloading heavier computation and, this is fascinating, a wrist-based neural interface.
A neural interface on your wrist, what does that do?
So the idea is it reads nerve signals in your wrist. This allows for really subtle, intuitive input commands without needing like a physical controller or anything, just tiny movements. It's a remarkable feat of miniaturization and, well, interface design.
Okay, wow. So the landscape for these kinds of tools, putting digital stuff in physical space, it feels like it's getting crowded fast. How does Meta see their different products fitting together? They've got the glasses, the headsets.
Right. He actually outlines 4 permanent product lines, each one tailored for a different purpose and, importantly, a different price point. It creates this kind of spectrum of digital engagement. So first, you have the displayless glasses, like the Ray-Ban Metas they already sell.
Okay, the simpler ones?
Exactly. They focus purely on form factor, looking good, and they're great for AI interactions, talking to an AI, having it talk back discreetly. Designed to be pretty affordable. Second, there's something in between. Heads-up display glasses. These would offer a smaller field of view, maybe say 20, 30 degrees, not for full holograms, but perfect for seeing things like AI responses, maybe your texts, navigation directions, or doing quick searches right in your line of sight.
So more info than the first type, but not full AR.
Precisely. More expensive than the displayless ones, but cheaper than the full AR glasses. Then the third line is the really ambitious one, the full holographic AR glasses, the Tony Stark ones we started with.
The flagship.
Yeah, the flagship. Positioned as the most premium, aiming eventually for the same kind of accessibility and ubiquity as, say, a personal computer. That's the real science fiction future they're building towards. And finally, number 4, full mixed reality headsets. Like the Quest 3, and they mentioned a Quest 3S coming too, these will stay crucial because, well, the larger form factor just allows for more compute power on board, so they can deliver really high-quality mixed reality experiences at more accessible prices.
Right, because the Quest 3 is, what, $500? And the 3S is meant to be even cheaper.
Exactly. Quest 3 at $500, the 3S planned for $299. That makes them significantly cheaper than a lot of competitors, while still offering quite immersive MR.
So, okay, putting it all together, what does this mean for us, for you listening? It sounds like a really tailored approach. You could have discrete AI help during your day, or full-on holographic meetings, depending on what you need and, frankly, what you can afford.
That seems to be the vision, yeah. A spectrum of options.
Now, beyond just the hardware, the specs, Zuckerberg consistently brings up 2 core values Meta is trying to deliver through all this tech. What are those?
The first one is presence, capital P presence. It's described as achieving this deep sense of social presence, that profound feeling that you're actually physically there with another person, even if they're hundreds or thousands of miles away. He calls it the holy grail for social apps.
The holy grail.
Yeah, and it's apparently what gives people that really visceral, almost emotional reaction when they first try good VR or messware, that feeling of, wow, I'm here.
He mentioned something very relatable too, doesn't he?
Right.
About missing hugging his mom and wanting to play Scrabble with her and feel like she's actually there.
Exactly, that personal connection goal.
Which does make you wonder about the limits, right?
Right.
What about the parts of connection that are physical? Touch, maybe even smell, those subtle cues.
That's a really crucial point, and he addresses it. While things like perfect eye contact, capturing nuanced facial expressions, that's getting much better, increasingly achievable, but haptics.
Feeling things.
Yeah, feeling touch. Like in a demo, they have feeling the ping pong ball hit your virtual paddle. That's still a significant challenge to do realistically and, compactly. Force feedback, feeling resistance. Like if you were virtual jujitsu training, that's even harder. And smell. He basically admits that's a very complex problem, not something they expect to solve in the next few years.
Interesting. And one striking thing he mentions about presence is that achieving it seems less about one single massive breakthrough and more about not breaking the illusion.
Right. It's fragile.
Things like a narrow field of view or noticeable lag or physics that just feel off those can instantly shatter that sense of reality.
But interestingly, people can apparently accept surprising combinations, like photorealistic avatars in a cartoon world, or the other way around. As long as the avatars themselves move and react authentically, our brains kind of fill in the gaps.
Oh, okay, so presence is pillar 1. What's the second?
The second pillar is personalized AI. This is where their models like Llama, that's Meta's large language model, similar to what powers ChatGPT or Google's Bard and the Meta AI assistant come in. The goal here is to make AI truly compelling and useful by personalizing it deeply with context, both like global information context, but also, crucially, what's physically happening around you.
And glasses are key for that context.
Exactly. They see glasses as the ideal form factor because they can leverage our most important senses, sight and hearing. They see what you see, hear what you hear. That provides incredibly rich, real-time context for the AI to be genuinely helpful.
Okay, this whole deep dive really kicked off with a fundamental question Zuckerberg posed. How do we structure future tech to genuinely foster more human connection? Which is striking because, well, there's all this research showing a real decline in actual real-world socializing.
Yeah, it's pretty stark. Data from the American Time Use Survey, for instance, shows the time American adults spend socializing in person dropped by nearly 30% over the last 2 decades.
30%? Wow.
And for younger people, ages 15 to 24, it's even more dramatic, almost a 70% drop. And maybe the most telling stat, the number of Americans reporting they don't have a single close friend. That jumped from just 3% to 12% in the last 30 years.
It really feels like, for all our connection tools, we're somehow struggling to connect more meaningfully. So what's Zuckerberg's take? Why is this happening, and how does his vision maybe help?
Well, his view is interesting. He suggests many of these trends actually started before modern tech really took over, and that people already feel less connected than they wish they were. So he believes digital connection isn't necessarily replacing a better physical connection that would have otherwise happened. Instead, it's unlocking more opportunities for connection that just wouldn't exist otherwise.
Like connecting with family far away.
Exactly. His example is, maybe it lets you spend more time interacting with your sister across the country, rather than taking away time from your spouse who's right there. He sees tech as helping meet this existing unmet demand for more social interaction.
That perspective raises a really important, almost philosophical question about AI's role, doesn't it? Where's the line between AI removing annoying struggles, like he mentions a Star Trek universal translator, which he thinks we're pretty much there with. Yeah, real-time translation is getting remarkably good. And preserving struggles that are actually vital for building character. Developing mental muscle, learning deep skills like mastering a language the hard way, or, I don't know, wrestling with difficult emotions.
That's a huge question. Zuckerberg's argument is essentially that humans will always find new things to struggle with. We're kind of built for it. He suggests tools that help us communicate better or solve certain problems don't eliminate the need for improvement or effort. They just shift the nature of the challenges we face.
Can you give an example, like the coding analogy?
Yeah, the coding analogy is a good one. He points out a generation ago, coding was this very low-level, intricate struggle with machine language or assembly. Now, building complex apps is vastly easier with high-level languages and frameworks, and he imagines maybe in 20 years, kids might just describe what they want an app to do, and an AI builds incredibly complex software.
So the struggle isn't gone, it just moves.
Exactly. The struggle, he posits, then shifts to things like expressing your creativity effectively, defining the vision precisely, learning how to prompt and refine the AI's outputs. It becomes a different kind of intellectual challenge.
He also believes some foundational things, like maybe basic math, even though we have calculators, or learning the fundamentals of coding today are still important. Why?
Because they teach rigorous thinking, problem-solving methodologies. Even if an AI ends up doing the heavy lifting later, understanding the underlying principles is valuable. Similarly, with languages, maybe a perfect AI translator makes learning French less functionally necessary for ordering coffee in Paris.
Right.
But learning the language itself still helps you think in different ways, understand culture more deeply. The struggle, the effort, it evolves, he thinks, but it doesn't just vanish.
So let's shift focus slightly.
Yeah.
How is generative AI specifically going to change how social media feels?
Yeah.
We've already seen this big shift, right? From mostly friends talking to friends to much more of a creator-driven environment.
Oh, absolutely. AI is set to accelerate that transformation, probably dramatically. For starters, your actual friends might be able to create funnier memes, much more polished videos, more interesting posts generally, because AI tools will help them edit, enhance, or even generate stuff from moments they capture.
So democratizing content creation even further.
Sort of, yeah. But then creators, the professionals, they'll leverage even more advanced AI tools to scale their output, improve quality, maybe personalize things in ways we haven't seen. And beyond that, you could start seeing purely AI-generated content that's personalized specifically for you. Custom news summaries, maybe AI comedians generating jokes based on your sense of humor, educational stuff tailored perfectly.
That leads to a really intriguing, maybe slightly unnerving idea he floats. The rise of AI creators, or maybe creators building AI versions of themselves. What would that actually look like?
Yeah, imagine a popular creators community being able to interact with an AI artifact, like a digital twin of the creator, trained on all their past content, their style, their knowledge base, their opinions.
So you could chat with an AI version of your favorite YouTuber.
Potentially, yeah. This AI version could engage with the community, answer questions, maybe even generate new content in the creator's style. Even when the real person is busy or offline, it could offer a way to scale that creator-audience connection massively.
That kind of rapid change, though, it often brings mixed feelings. Anxiety, maybe, about the pace of it all.
Yeah.
How does Zuckerberg address that, especially for creators who might feel like they're constantly having to adapt?
He definitely acknowledges that anxiety. He knows it's real, particularly for people in creative fields or any field that might be disrupted by AI. He emphasizes that, yes, the quality of creative work is likely going to go through the roof because of these tools, but the flip side is keeping up with that rising bar, learning the new tools that will become a responsibility, a necessity for creators.
So what's his advice then? For anyone listening, maybe starting a career, starting a family, looking at this future.
His main advice is basically cultivate profound curiosity. Stay curious. He points out, look, the last 10-15 years already brought massive, dramatic changes with the internet really maturing and smartphones becoming ubiquitous.
True. Things changed fast.
Right. And he believes the people who tend to thrive through these shifts are generally the curious ones, the ones open to new tools, figuring out how to use them to enhance their lives rather than trying to sort of fight against the tide of change.
Okay, shifting gears a bit again. Let's unpack the debate around open source AI. That's a term we hear a lot now. What's Meta's position and why?
Yeah, it's a big one. Zuckerberg kind of breaks it down into two key pieces. First, there's the question about the future structure of AI control. Like, do we want a future where one or two massive centralized AI models dominate everything, maybe controlled by companies like OpenAI or Google, who tend to keep their core models closed, versus a more diverse ecosystem? A world where many different people, businesses, organizations can build and modify their own AIs. That's the approach Meta is pushing with Llama, making their models open source. He firmly believes the future will be diverse. He envisions practically every business, maybe even individual creators, eventually having their own specialized AI models tailored to their needs.
Okay, so that's the control aspect. What's the second piece? The safety debate.
Right, the safety argument. This is crucial. Does keeping the AI models closed and proprietary make them inherently safer because you limit access for potential bad actors? That's one argument. Or does making them open source actually make them more secure and robust in the long run because many more eyes can scrutinize them, find flaws, test boundaries, and contribute improvements?
What's Meta's stance on that?
Their stance, drawing parallels to traditional software development, is that open source has historically proven to be safer and more secure over time.
Because more people find the bugs.
Exactly. More people scrutinizing the code, finding vulnerabilities, sharing fixes it leads to a faster iteration cycle and more robust systems, while the concern about bad actors getting access is real and needs managing.
Sure.
The argument is that putting the models out there means issues get discovered and patched much quicker by the global community. He believes the same principle will hold true for AI models, leading ultimately to smarter, more resilient, and safer AI for everyone.
Okay. So finally, after discussing all this, the glasses, the AI, the social implications, we get to maybe the single biggest open question on Mark Zuckerberg's mind right now, particularly concerning the future of AI and the hardware needed for it. What's that fundamental uncertainty?
It really boils down to the scalability of the current AI architectures, specifically these transformer-based models.
The ones driving things like ChatGPT and Llama.
Exactly. Those underlying designs have driven this incredible recent explosion in AI capabilities. Now, in the past, AI research often hit plateaus, right? You'd invest more computing power, more data, but the improvements would level off. But with these current transformer architectures, Meta and others, they haven't found the end yet, as he puts it. They haven't hit that wall.
So they just keep getting better the more resources you throw at them.
So far, yes, seemingly linearly or even better. And Meta is betting huge on this continuing. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars eventually, invested on the assumption that these models will keep scaling, that they'll become vastly more capable, more useful, as they're trained on exponentially more GPUs and more data. He gives examples like Llama 3 being trained on maybe 10,000 to 20,000 GPUs.
Which is already massive.
Llama 4 is projected to use well over 100,000 GPUs, just enormous scale.
So the giant high-stakes question hanging over everything is, will this scaling just keep going? Will these models continue to improve dramatically for years, maybe decades, driving this dynamic tech landscape?
Or will they eventually hit some fundamental limit inherent in the architecture? Will we need entirely new scientific breakthroughs in AI design to get to the next level?
And Meta's bet is?
Their entire strategy really is on continued, basically uninterrupted advancement through scaling the current approach. It's a massive gamble, but one they seem confident in making.
Wow. Okay, so if we try to connect all this back to the bigger picture, it really feels like we're not just talking about building new tools or gadgets here. We're potentially looking at profoundly reshaping what it means to connect, maybe how we learn, perhaps even how we define our own humanity.
Absolutely. Which leads to, I think, a really important final question for you, for everyone listening. In this future we're heading towards, where AI might solve so many of our practical problems, where it might even mimic human interaction incredibly convincingly. What fundamental struggles, what efforts, what uniquely human endeavors do you believe are essential? Essential for real human growth, for fulfillment? And maybe more importantly, how will you make sure you keep cultivating those things in your own life, regardless of the technology around you?